Good afternoon and welcome to the school board meeting Sunday, March 15th at 2 p.m. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. Dr. Whitehead, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. So used to saying good evening. All right. I'll now call the roll, please. Mr. Weiss?
Here.
Mrs. Soto?
Present.
Dr. Serini?
Present.
Ms. Reed? Present. Mr. Goldberg?
Here.
Mr. Caltagirone?
Here.
Ms. Seamus is
Present on the phone.
via telephone. And Ms. Emanuel?
Present.
Madam President, we have 7 present, 1 via telephone, and no student representatives.
Thank you. And at this time, before we roll into the meeting issues, I just wanted to say a quick note. I wanted to thank our community, our staff, our teachers. We are definitely in an unprecedented time here, and everybody's working overtime. They're working very hard. And we're just, on behalf of the board, just wanted to say thank you. It's challenging for our teachers. They're shifting everything that they do. The administration is supporting not only the instruction, but the needs of our students through food and other supports. And the office staff is working so hard in supporting everything. So just across the board, thank you to everyone who's putting in an exorbitant amount of hours. Thank you. So at this time, you'll see projected the announcement of meetings, those that have happened and those that are upcoming.
Can I ask a question on that? The meeting on the 31st, assuming it occurs, has kind of a special flavor to it. It might be good to remind folks what that flavor is so that we can be prepared for it. And then I didn't see the board curriculum meeting, which is typically around the same time as the policy meeting, and didn't know if that would be an off month and it would have been a daytime thing. So I just didn't know where we stood with that.
So as an off month, yes, it will be held at the alternate location library during the day. And
that's on April the 15th. That's why we didn't put it out there yet on this agenda.
Okay, so we moved.
No, it's not. That was actually its original date. That has not been moved.
Oh, my mistake.
It's that late because of spring break. And then the alternate time and everything, that's when you actually have finance taking place and building and grounds all on the 15th.
Fair enough. Thank you.
And as for the meeting on the 31st, if it happens, and if it doesn't, obviously we will reschedule it. We were reassessing our board meeting schedule as per the request. We have been trying out Monday evenings for board meetings and the alternate locations, things of that nature. So it was to allow the board to come back together after a few months of the new schedule to determine is that what we wanted to stick with, or were there other options that we wanted to consider. Thank you very much. And at this time, we will open to public comment on any school subject. If you could please come to the podium, state your name, where you're from. We will address anything that we can at the conclusion of public comment. If we cannot, we will address it in future superintendent's reports. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Also have wipes if you would like.
So I'm going to try to stand back from it and let me know if the microphone's picking it up, but I will ask that after I speak, somebody wipe it down for the next person. So a couple of questions. We just had the board education session, and one of the things that was discussed was the auditor's responsibility and what is the purpose of an audit. And I think it's important for the public to understand that the question is, does the audit provide the assurance that it's meant to? And I think when Mr. Fazio said that Radier's opinion was the most important part of it, and that is because that is what the audit comes down to. So my question is, how is it possible that that gives us any assurance, given what they have missed over the last 5 to 6 years? And I have a short list of what they have missed. The failure of the internal controls, specifically the cash controls, where we know policy was not followed. I understand that there was a comment made that it was because of a materiality limit. I met with the auditor and Dr. Fegley before I left the board. Cash has no materiality limit, especially in a public organization. Every dollar must be accounted for. So that is just a misstatement. The second thing is the possible misuse of taxpayer funds. We know that there was a possibility. That's why we asked for a forensic audit. As the person who drafted the memo that the entire board adopted and agreed to, the scope of that audit was quite broad. And there were very detailed instructions, and I have that memo, and it should be reviewed by everyone. The third thing was the possible diversion of taxpayer revenue. What was going on with the boosters, with the field revenue? Again, I drafted a memo to the entire board before I left. The audit should have caught that. There were expenditures in excess of the board set policy that were not brought to the attention of the board. The fourth thing was the overpayment of local tax revenues. This was also missed for years, and yet we're getting clean audits. And the fifth thing, of course, is the ongoing forensic audit and investigation. No good audit, having an awareness of possible embezzlement, is going to close an audit and give a clean audit report until the forensic audit is in hand and reviewed. I went online and I searched literally hundreds of school districts that have undergone forensic audits. All of them disclosed it. Every single
30
one.
seconds.
So what I'm asking this board to do, I know it was changed and the approval was pulled, and I thank you for that. But I think that what's really needed is a deep dive into this. I had asked that this audit firm be replaced immediately when we found out about the deficiencies. I asked that the solicitors be replaced. I could not get a fifth vote. We had 4 votes. So by no means was this agreed to by everyone. And I think it's egregious and irresponsible that this report would be used for anything other
3 minutes.
than
Thank
to
you.
compare it to the forensic audit. Thank you.
Good afternoon. John Morass, Schuylkill Township. In January, the school board rescheduled the meeting from January 13th to January 21st. I filed a right to know requesting the cost to the taxpayers for that meeting. My request produced legal fees of $950.75, advertising fees of $54.68. In total, this cost the taxpayers $1,013.43 due to the board's president's inability to control that meeting. In December 2019, the school board approved the termination of an HR director. I'm requesting to the public, what was the termination or severance package paid to this former HR director who did receive a raise in October 2019. In the March 9th budget presentation, there was a slide with other areas for budget consideration. One of the items was business office stability. Last September, the district manager was terminated. The school administration has an interim business manager that is being paid $650 a day. In addition, 3 people have been hired as temps. Temp number 1 at a rate of $70 per hour effective 10/9/19. Temp number 2 at a rate of $50 per hour effective 10/29/19. Temp number 3 at a rate of $425 per day effective 2/14/20. What are the job descriptions and qualifications, and where were these openings posted? Without knowing the number of hours worked, the annualized wages for these 4 positions is over $500,000. In the budget discussion and finance committee meetings recently, the business office manager position is now called director of finance, and I understand that interviews have taken place and that this position will be filled soon in order to bring business office stability. At the same time, the 2021 budget will have an allocation for a position of a controller. The new director will make that decision. What will be the salaries for the director and possible controller compared to the former business office manager? Hearing that the business office lacked internal controls, staff was not cross-trained, it seems that taxpayers and all stakeholders now see the administration that failed to protect the assets of the school district. The forensic audit is not complete, so we do not know the results, but we do know that it has cost taxpayers thousands and thousands of dollars in legal and audit fees and temporary positions. One example is the overpayment of the tax dollars from the school to the borough of Phoenixville for over $300,000. Leadership and credibility. This starts from the top down. If recommendations were made previously about internal controls and cash transactions, those items should have been followed up. No excuse. Failure to communicate and the transparency about issues that are brought up to the public just gives the public thinking, what else is they trying to hide? The board needs to hold Dr. Fagley accountable. He has been here for over 10 years, and hearing issues in internal controls is very alarming. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Lemker. I live here in Schuylkill Township. I'm here again to talk about cursive, returning cursive to the curriculum. I've been doing this since September. I went to the curriculum committee on March 3rd, and I thought there was a vote there to bring the issue up to the board to have the administration look into it, what it would cost, how they'd implement it. I saw an earlier agenda of the board meeting that was on there, and now this agenda doesn't have it. I'm not sure what happened. I'm kind of curious. Are we going to talk about cursive? It is? Oh.
Number
Oh, it is?
2 under
Okay.
voting
Take
items.
it back.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further public comment?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Chris Bowen. I live here in Phoenixville. I haven't prepared anything. I'm not a great public speaker, but what I want to know is why are we knowing about this meeting about the audit at the last minute? I'm a simple guy, all right? I had to find out third and fourth hand that there was an Audit 101 educational session, which told me absolutely nothing about the audit half an hour before I got here. I was joking with somebody back here before. Transparency at this board is a dirty word. How am I supposed to teach my daughter ethics when you folks here have none? You should all be ashamed of yourselves. And that's all I got to say. Thanks.
I'm good. I'm not going to lick it or anything. I'm good. Good afternoon. Kathleen Mraz, Schuylkill Township. I was reviewing the Sunshine Law, and I know that on a special meeting such as this, you only need 24 hours as opposed to the customary 48. But I couldn't find anywhere where there was a paid publication in a newspaper that is required, nor is it posted here where the agency is holding the meeting. So I was just wondering about that and whether or not you are in compliance with the Sunshine Law. Thank you.
The meeting, well, let's finish public comment.
Any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Kristen Myers. I'm an East Pikeland Township resident and parent of 2 kids in the school district. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the emails that came out with everything you're doing with the virus that is going around. I am kind of shocked that we did have a meeting today, a school board meeting, and it was not in one of those emails. We got like 5 emails. I read every single one of them. And if I missed it, I'm sorry. But to get it out to the public, you could have sent a meeting due to this, an email. I mean, I saw it because it was shared on Facebook. So I think it's a general, just try to get everything out. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Joan Cadigan. I'm the Executive Director of Phoenixville Community Education Foundation. And I just wanted to say that PCF is ready to work with the board and the administration on helping our students while we're temporarily closed. I have been in contact with Ms. Emanuel and Dr. Fegley, and I know they're committed to helping the students, particularly those in our lower income communities who may not have the resources that all of us have. So either during the meeting or after the meeting, I'm happy to meet and see what we can do to help. Thanks.
Seeing no further public comment, Dr. Fegley, would you like to speak to the communications, please?
Regarding the posting of the meeting, we worked with the attorney. The attorney came back and said that we needed to put it out as broadly, as quickly as we could. It was put on our webpage. It was put out on Facebook. It was put out as a Facebook event. It was, I believe it was actually texted out. I'll have to look at that one. That's the one I don't remember, Mrs. Mraz. I'll be honest about that one. But we did advertise it out over many, many sources in order to let folks know about the change in this meeting date. And in compliance with Sunshine. Obviously, it must have worked. We have more people here today than we ever had at these meetings.
I also want to, can you speak to that? Okay. Can you, Dr. Fegley, can you please speak to the Sunshine statute regarding the paid publication?
When a board calls an emergency meeting with 24 hours notice, it does not have to put anything in a paid publication. Because honestly, you wouldn't even see it in the paid publication. We have to put it out. We put it out. We did list it on the buildings. It is listed on the site.
Is it listed as an emergency meeting, though?
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, we'll move on to our meeting items.
Madam President?
Yes.
I have three motions I'd like to make. I'll read them all and then we can vote on them separately. One is, we have a lot to review, so I'd like to make the motion that all speeches for board members during debate are limited to 2 minutes. The second is I'd like to make the motion that Robert's Rules of Order be followed.
One motion at a time, just so that we can
Yeah,
differentiate,
you want me to
please?
go one by one?
Please, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
If I can keep.
The first motion is that debate be limited to 2 minutes.
2 minutes per us.
item. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
What is the normal time frame for debate?
We don't normally have one.
So normally we just discuss?
I mean, we follow board norms, so, you know, that we do, and we're supposed to have an educational session on that coming up as well. So that's normally what we follow, but we don't necessarily have a time limit.
But we can always call the meeting, correct, Ms. Reed? Or call the vote, which would end the discussion effectively? It would call the question, that's correct. So because we have an unprecedented meeting, do we want to confine ourselves to 2 minutes when we know that we can just call the vote?
I mean, I'm fine with the 2 minutes. I think it's a good idea. You know, I'm trying to be cognizant of everyone's time here. You know, technically, you know, there's a lot of people in this room, and I don't want us to all be in the same place for a long time, so I'm just trying to be cognizant of that.
And you can always ask for more.
Yeah.
You can always ask for more.
Ask for more what?
Time.
Well,
if you're
not
in the middle of
not for
something.
putting a 2 minute time limit on ourselves.
You can say, may I please have 1 more minute?
Well, then what's the point of this vote at all then?
Okay, then let's have a 2 minute limit. I am just,
I agree with you, Ms. Reed. I'm just saying if we're going to do it, let's do it. And so no point asking for more time.
Is that 2 minutes per person? Is that 2 minutes per speech, or 2 minutes for the whole conversation?
well, maybe I should go to the first motion or the second motion first. The second motion is, the second motion that we might is that per Robert's Rules of Order, per District Policy 06, each member speak only twice on each motion except for clarifying questions and information gathering. So it would be, someone would have a total of 4 minutes to speak on a topic, 2 minutes each time.
My worry about this is that that 2 minutes will come bing and someone's right in the middle. And also that we have a room full of people and we've been hearing about transparency and discussion. I'm not saying that we should drone on forever, but maybe 2 minutes is a little bit.
What would you then propose? What would you then amend it to? I don't mean to interject, but I say we do what we've always done for all these years, and if we feel that someone's on a tangent, we call the vote. We're wasting more time talking about a 2 minute limit when we have important things to talk about, and I don't personally want to give our constituents the perception that we are, squeezing a meeting in on a Sunday with all the feedback we've already gotten, and then put a 2 minute limit. I mean, we call the vote and then we vote. I think that we're treading on very serious perceptions here, and I urge my board peers to really consider what we're voting for here.
I mean, I'll be honest, it's just, we're trying already just to have a discussion on whether or not we want to have this, and we're already going in circles. So this is, I think, having this done is just a way for us to stick to what we're trying to do and move forward and move on. You know, if someone needs more time, then we can discuss having a motion then, but I really think that we really need to be cognizant of everyone's time and we have a very long agenda to get through, and honestly, I don't want to sit in a room and close to people for 4 hours. I'm just thinking from a health standpoint. You know, we want to practice what we're preaching. So that's why, I mean, I'm fine with it. I think honestly, we just need to vote on that.
Yeah, I would agree. I would just ask, let's just say the same amount of time we give the audience. So make it 3 minutes. That way we don't have to be always having a discussion as to whether to go longer.
I will amend the vote to 3 minutes per person.
Do I have a second for that amendment? Second. Discussion on the amendment.
Who's keeping track of the 3 minutes per person? But who's the person who's pressing the button? Okay. And so just to be clear, if a person is speaking for 3 minutes, we will have a 30-second warning. We may ask for more time, which we then have to vote on as a board. I'm just trying to understand this. This is very unclear.
You have 3 minutes to speak if it is germane to the topic. If it is not germane to the topic, then it's a point of order.
And you could ask to adjourn that discussion. Is that something you could do? No. Okay.
Okay. Again, I'm still not clear. How are we, you just said that we can ask for more time. Would you please give some clarification as part of your motion or refer me to Robert's rules?
I can refer you to Robert's rules.
You. So what aspect of Robert's rules are we going to follow if we need more time? And can we explain that so the public understands too?
You ask for more time so you can finish your germane conversation, your germane speech.
Right. And what does that mean? Do we have to vote? How do we decide?
People will vote yay or nay.
Okay. So at that point, I ask for more time or someone asks for more time. What part of which Roberts, can you give me a source so I can look it up myself?
Let's see.
Honestly, I'd like the idea initially, but just the discussion of it is going to obviate everything we would have gained with this motion.
I'm going to make a motion to vote.
I call the vote. I'd like to call the vote.
The first vote then on the call the vote. That's
The first vote is to call the vote.
is to call the vote.
All those in favor of voting on the motion to amend the time from the original motion to 3 minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. So at this time, we are back to the original motion at a 3-minute time frame. 3 minutes. That was the motion we just voted on. Okay, so all those in favor of a motion to restrict comment volleys to 3 minutes, germane to the topic, please say aye. Per person.
Per speech.
Per speech.
I'm sorry.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain. I didn't understand.
I can't.
When you said volley, I didn't know what that meant.
Motion passes.
Excuse me, can you do a per individual vote? Because I didn't even have a chance to vote. My mic was off, and I don't understand who said
Dr.
what.
Whitehead, please do a roll call.
Please reread the motion as well. Thank you.
The motion is that all speeches during debate be limited to 3 minutes.
Per person.
Per person, per speech. All speeches. Per person.
Okay, I'll now call the roll. Mr. Caltadrone.
Yes.
Mr. Weiss.
Yes.
Mrs. Broker. Mrs. Soto.
Yes.
Dr. Serini.
My mic's not turned on.
There you go.
Use mine.
My mic's on now. Thank you. No.
Ms. Seamus.
Yeah.
We have not voted for Ms. Seamus to vote.
It's okay.
Because she's remote.
Yeah. Ms. Reed?
Aye.
Mr. Goldberg?
Yes.
Ms. Emanuel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank
Carries
you.
without her vote.
Without Ms. Seamus' vote.
Should we
And
jump
Ms.
in?
Reed, back to you.
Madam President, may I please make the motion that Ms. Seamus may vote via phone as if she were present in person? On all items, all voting items.
Second.
Okay, we have a second discussion.
Sounds good to me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Madam President, may I make the motion that Robert's Rules of Order be followed per District Policy 006 and each member speak only twice on each motion except for clarifying questions as information gathering.
Is there a second? Discussion.
Why is this night different than all other nights?
I was going to bring it up anyway.
Well, I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
So go
I
ahead.
am. I was going to bring it up anyway, so I was going to bring it up at the next board meeting, and I already had
I'm
it out.
asking now, what,
We
why
have,
are
our
doing-
board norms are 3, not 2. We're decreasing to 2 for tonight. Again, not to limit conversation, not to prohibit transparency, simply because we are trying to expedite the necessary work, so we are not putting people at further health risk.
And also, you can vote no.
Thank you.
Can you just-
I appreciate your permission.
If you wouldn't mind, could you just repeat that motion?
Each member speak only twice on each motion, which does not count for clarifying questions and information gathering.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries. At this time, we will move on to our board committee reports, and we will start with Buildings and Grounds with Mr. Caltagirone.
Thank you, Mrs. Emanuel. I will try and go through this as quickly as possible. We have 2 voting items. Is that humming? Am I here? Okay.
Oh, my.
We have approval of a zoning variance with Schuylkill Township Zoning Board. This is basically approval to go to the Schuylkill Township Zoning Board for lighting on the turf field number 2, which is the turf field above Washington Field. Dr. Figley, can you put that on the road? It's 29 and City Line. Is it 29 and City Line? Just so everybody has an idea of where we're talking about. Right. There you go. Thank you. Again, this is only approval for our administration to go to Schuylkill Township to ask for the variance, the zoning variance to add those lights. As I said at the B&G meeting, if you are in opposition to that, you can certainly go to the Schuylkill Township zoning meeting and voice your opposition to that lighting, and learn more about it at that meeting if you haven't already been to a B&G meeting. So feel free to voice your opinion on that. If it dies at the zoning, it doesn't go any further, just so we're clear. If the zoning committee does not give us that variance, then it will go no further than that. So just so everybody's aware. And so we were voting on that approval item. We were voting on an approval item for an RFP to seek real estate brokers for the sale of the kindergarten center and East Pikeland. I know there's been a lot of talk about this recently, what's happening with those buildings. Our building manager has been doing his best to try and lead people through the building as requests have come in, but quite honestly, he is not a real estate broker, and we have many more important things for him to be doing than trying to lead tours through our school buildings. So we are putting out an RFP, seeking approval to put out an RFP to find a real estate broker who will help us dispose of those properties. Those are our 2 approval items. So at that point, I guess we have to go to open public comment, or
Just prior to that, we're actually doing the reports. We're going to come back to the actual voting. So we're going to go through all the reports and then the voting.
Great. Okay. Just looking at the agenda. So
Absolutely.
do we go to open public comment now, or we?
Well, I'm going to make a real quick comment before we do that, but if you're concluded on your part. Great, thank you. So the one public comment that I wanted to make quickly, there has been some concerns over the trees at Barkley, which recently came down, so I just wanted to clarify that piece very quickly. We did discuss this at the Buildings and Grounds meeting, but there are the 6 trees that are right in front of Barkley. The 3 that are closest to the building are causing damage to the building and have, as of yesterday, been brought down. And then as of this morning, the 3 trees that are closest to the street, there was some pruning done because there were parts of the trees that were dying. We are not taking those 3 trees down. Just wanted to clarify for the public.
Oh, so along those lines, let me then, since we're doing that part of it, let me just speak quickly to the other things that we talked about with Barclays, because there's been a lot of questions about the interior work as well. So the boilers, we got a price to replace the boilers. It is $115,000 to replace those 2 boilers. That would include a 5-year warranty on the boilers and a lifetime on the heat exchanger, which the heat exchanger is the problem that we've been dealing with, which happened back in December, which caused us to make quick changes back in December. So this would take care of that problem and give us 2 new boilers for the Barkley project. The other, expected lifetime is 20 years on these boilers, consistent with all of the other boilers in the district. So it would bring us up to speed on that. Other projects that we've talked about for Barkley moving into probably the summer months, doing after school lets out, but painting, flooring, plaster in the auditorium that needs to be fixed. The roof, we have a couple of minor roof issues, the front entrance, and the tree work included in that. We are all in on that for about $211,000 to do all that work. So that would include taking down the wallpaper that people know about. Just for people who may not have been here in the past that aren't clear, we did test, made sure that there is no lead underneath there, so we don't have any problems there. So we are good to go with removing that wallpaper, getting the painting done, looking at some flooring to replace some of the bad flooring in there. So really a strong revitalization of that building. As I say, it's about 211 is one of the quotes we got. We're still getting some other quotes, so we're not finished getting quotes yet, but that's where we're at right about now. We did get a feasibility study proposal from the Schrader Group to work on the Harris Hill property. That we discussed in Building and Grounds. We're still looking at that and analyzing that. That would also include an updated SLEP proposal, which I'm not even going to try. Dr. Fink, Service Life Extension Program, I always forget it. Looking at all of our buildings in the district and all of the things that need to get done. So we would be updating that plan and working on feasibility for the Harris Hill property. Pam's escrows, we are working on that. We've got a word from the Chester County Conservation District that there were some missed issues with the basin around the middle school. We're looking at how to fix that problem. It's not a big fix. It shouldn't be a big deal, so we should be in good shape with that. And we are completing the paperwork needed for the notice of termination with the county and the borough for the escrow. We got the athletic covers are completed, and over at the Manavon properties, the protective coverings that went up above the baseball fields and stuff like that, that's done. We didn't have much on the Meadowbrook farmhouse, just a brief discussion, but no real update there, and that is all for Building and Grounds.
Thank you. Any board?
I just wanted to make an announcement of the meeting for the lights at Schuylkill Township. I did receive notification at the end of last week that the meetings next month in Schuylkill Township have all been canceled. So I don't want the world trying to show up there, and they've been canceled.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any board questions or comments on the?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First, as to the lights, Mr. Caltadrone, I think you have mentioned before that those are being paid for by a third party?
They are. Any costs associated with it, both for materials and for labor to install, would be paid by the parties that are requesting that, which would be the outside sports teams.
Okay. As far as the netting and the athletic that you mentioned at the end, was that paid for by the boosters?
That was paid for through PAC funds, yes.
Okay. As to the boilers in the elementary school, how old are they? Do you know?
They are approximately 10 years old at this point. I believe they were installed in 2010, somewhere around there. They are about 10 years old. Yes, we are. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we are getting a discount from the installer. Who would be putting in the new boilers are the same people that put in the last boilers. They are giving us a discount on the new boilers because of the short lifespan of the existing boilers. Well, and the warranty, which I just spoke about, which is better. The warranty that I spoke about, the 5-year and the lifetime on the boiler exchange, those are additional warranties that we are getting from the installer because of what happened this last time.
And so the original contract didn't have a 20-year warranty?
No.
No. Okay. And weren't those just recently inspected in the fall?
Inspection is not necessarily indicative of any major problems that could occur. I mean, they were cleaned and inspected right, or yearly maintenance, but there is nothing that would have necessarily told them that we were going to have problems.
And just one more question. In terms of the price discount, do you have that figure?
As I said, it's $115,000 to replace the 2 boilers. I'm sorry. 15%. We got a 15% discount, bringing it to $115,000. So.
Has that contract been signed?
No, it has not been signed yet.
Okay. And then in terms of the summertime work, you were talking about the painting, the removing of wallpaper and the flooring, and you said $211K. Just wondering, we have our own people on staff, maintenance people, who are able to do certain kinds of repairs and things of that nature. Has that been looked into?
That is one quote, and yes, we have looked into that. This is work that needs to get done, and quite honestly, we need the contractors on site to do that. This is not something that can necessarily be handled in a time frame with the resources that we have available to us. And as I said, the 211 is one quote. We are still waiting on additional quotes, so that could go down. Hopefully, if all goes well, it will go down.
Okay, so and is there a breakdown per each thing, the painting, the removing, and the flooring?
Yes, it was discussed at the meeting. I can send that to you.
Okay, no problem. I'll look that up.
Just a quick question. Would you happen to know if we were able to determine if the variance is a blanket variance?
It's for the upper field only. Upper turf field.
Okay, because there was a question that was raised by a community member, so we did clarify that it's just for the upper turf field. Okay, great, thank you.
I'm sorry, one last question. With regard to the feasibility study, it just made me think of something else that I was wondering. Do we have a substantial need study having been done by the powers that be at the state? Substantial need, has that been completed? Under the regulations that talk about construction processes.
Microphone.
Oh. Thank you. So
Yeah, there's a number of
regards to the-
regulations.
No, with regards to the Hares Hill project, that is what we are asking the board to approve for consideration is our substantial need, and then to go to them for construction. That is the process that we're going through, is to get that report so we can then submit it to the state.
I understand, but my understanding is that that includes an inspection and a sort of look at what we already have in terms of our properties.
And that's what this will also undertake, yes. That's part of the whole, that's whole part of the feasibility study, is pulling that together and then taking all that information to the state before you start a construction project.
Okay.
Seeing no further comment, at this time I'd like to open it up for public comment on B and G items. Please come to the microphone. Feel free to wipe it down. Please state where you live.
Sorry. So sorry.
How about I just not use the microphone because
You need so they pick it up on TV.
Christmas hours, 840 Camp Circle, Countryside Realty. With regard to the request for proposal for the sale of East Pikeland and the kindergarten center, will the request have a mandated number as determined by, I guess, prior real estate appraisals that the board has had, or will part of the request have I guess, a broker's price opinion recommendation? Number two, with these type of projects or properties, you're going to be looking at probably two different type of scenarios. One being a due diligence period with sale within a certain amount of time, meaning as is, where is. Part two would be due diligence period with sale and settlement dependent upon whether or not somebody wants to do an alternative use for both properties. For example, East Pikeland, it's zoned residential, R2, it's a non-conforming use. The other property in Phoenixville, a little bit different situation. Just like when you purchased the Hares Hill property, you were under contract and you didn't execute and settle on that property for approximately 1 year. So there's big price difference between a property with a due diligence period and sale as is, where is, versus you sitting in bed with a developer or buyer until a specific period of time, until he realizes whatever he's looking to do with that specific property. Because on both properties, in my professional opinion, it's very highly unlikely that they're going to continue as school uses. So with that, I'd like to have some clarification on, number one, the price that's being established, because I've seen and filed right to request to look at the appraisals that have been done in the past on the properties, as well as the one completed. Haven't seen the one in East Pikeland, but they have an appraisal, and I think that there are some fundamental flaws in the numbers that are being presented on these particular assets that are owned by the school district. Thank you.
Just Lisa Longo, Phoenixville. Just a quick question on the feasibility study. I thought I heard Dr. Fegley say that the board is being asked to approve that, but there's not an approval item listed. And also if there's going to be a cost attached to that feasibility, if you could explain when, if that's not being approved today, which I'm guessing it is not because it's not on the agenda, it'll be when board resumes normal operations. Okay. On the updated SLEP, I know that there is a cost attached to having that done. Do we have an estimate on what that report will cost? Thank you.
Kathleen Mraz again. I just wanted to get some clarification on the variance that you're sending to the township for approval. And I understand, and thank you for the clarification, Dr. Serini, that it's strictly for Field 2, that it's not a blanket to include 20 and 60. Is that correct? Oh, okay. And just to clarify, what was the distance or exactly what's on the verbiage of the variance? Is it for because you're inside the 350 feet, or is it more detailed than that? If you could give me some feedback on that, please.
Any further comment? Seeing none, Dr. Fagley.
So it is for the upper turf. We are asking permission to go forward with the variance. We will start writing the variance and getting that all set and ready to go. So I am assuming it's because it's within 350 feet of the houses that we need it. It's certainly less than the 1,000 feet that is currently in the zoning ordinance. So we have to go for a variance on that. Cost of a SLEP program, I believe, is looking like it's going to be about the same price as it was 10 years ago, $14,000 or so, but I don't have the exact figure off the top of my head.
If I remember correctly, it was part of the Schrader assessment. So it was the facility assessment fee was about $14,200. The master planning fee was about $19,500. And if I remember correctly,
thank you.
That would be one of those would be refunded, or both of those would be. One of them would be refunded if we move forward with the project and with Schrader Group. So those costs would be part of that roll-in if we move forward.
So that's that.
I think there was one other question, and I actually wanted to know if you had an answer to it, and that was the concern about the saleability of East Pikeland, given that it is only zoned as a school. Has there been any discussions with the Board of Supervisors over there in connection with waiving that or doing whatever needs to be done so that we can get the highest price possible?
I actually believe it is zoned as R2. I'd have to go back to look at the zoning map, but I believe it is zoned as R2, which is a residential zoning already.
Okay.
They did that a number of years ago. With regards to how, when you look at due diligence 1 and due diligence 2 is what I'll call it, I think the board would accept all bids and then look at what's the best bid and then come back and say this is the one we want. So I would encourage, once we get ready to go out for bid, that people sit there and say, I want to pay cash up front, or I want to do, give you even more money if we can get this in a year. And then that will be a board decision as to how they go forward with that.
So, okay, but you double checked on the zoning still being R2.
Last time I looked, it was R2. Yes.
Thanks.
Seeing no further comments, at this time we'll move on to the Curriculum Committee report. Curriculum Committee report.
I'm sorry, I was told that I was removed from Curriculum Committee chair.
You're still reporting out on the last month's meeting.
That was not made clear to me at all. And I was told that you were taking over as chair. I apologize, but it was not made clear to me.
Understood.
It
So
was
what we will
as
go
of
through then
that
is the
date.
voting items that we have for curriculum.
Excuse me, may I make a point of order here? Can someone clarify what's happening, please? Thank you.
At this time,
Could you hold on 1 second? We'll have a brief conversation with Ms. Serini before you explain.
Call for a 5-minute recess.
would you like to call for a 5-minute recess?
How about a 2-minute recess?
I would like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Aye.
Okay, discussion, none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. we'll quickly review the curriculum voting items. We have 3 up for approval, although as my understanding...
I'm sorry. I would like to make a comment. I certainly would have had everything ready. However, I was told that I was removed as chair, and there was a suggestion that somebody else was taking over, and in the absence of any other instruction, as of the day that I was removed as chair, I cannot discharge the duties of the chair. I am certainly amenable to providing my report on Monday in writing because of the situation, and I'm very sad that it went down the way it did.
Noted.
Madam Chair, there are 3 approval items. Administration is recommending that approval item number 3 be removed. That is 2 trips that are, one is scheduled to go to San Francisco and one is scheduled to go down to the Washington, D.C. area. While it may have seemed good about 3 weeks ago to do this, as we move forward with committee meetings, it is no longer, in administration's opinion, appropriate.
I don't see a San Francisco trip there.
No, it's to Makunji.
Bear Creek.
Oh, Bear Creek. That's also one. I'm thinking of another one to San Francisco. That's coming. Which is not coming.
It's the San Francisco of Lehigh County.
But we're both of these trips. Sorry.
Thank you. So when we move on to voting items, we'll be voting on items numbers 1 and 2. At this time, we'll open for public comment on the curriculum agenda item.
Quickly on the approval of the dual credit, I mentioned this at the curriculum meeting. I believe this becomes an issue of equity. So students cannot use their Pell Grants to do dual enrollment, and we have students who obviously may not be able to afford to pay for classes. So as we're looking at this, we absolutely should also be looking at the equity piece to make sure, and I know in the past it's been said that there have been funds available through PCEF, but I think that needs to be quantified and clarified in a policy and guidelines. It's not enough to say we're going to do it. I know there are kids that are not being reached, either because they're embarrassed to admit their families can't pay for it or whatever the reason is, but when you have a policy and you actually move forward and you make it clear to the community that this is a priority, then programs like this become meaningful for all families. On the other issue, as the prior board president and board member, removing somebody as a chair is not something that's normally done. And I know in the past when we had issues with the board makeup and I had actually tried to redo the committees, the outcry from other board members, I withdrew that request, because it's not something that gets done. You can actually mentor and work with people, and I'm just very disappointed to hear that's happening. I think Mrs. Broker has given us all many good insights and done things, and while not everyone is capable of making a point in 30 seconds or 3 minutes, I think that should be taken into account. I'm just very disappointed with what's going on in general. Oh, wait.
Joan Cadigan with PCF again. I just wanted to mention that that PCF does have funds available for dual credit. We have promoted that. It's in our program of studies. And I do communicate with the guidance counselors every year. It has not been taken advantage of recently because I understand the funding was not as needed because there were different arrangements already available, but we are happy to help with that. Thanks.
Hi, Kristen Myers from East Pikeland Township. Dr. Fegley, my question is a clarification to what you just said. You're taking off the third voting item. Does that mean they're not going, or does that mean you're going to vote on it in April? Only because I have a child that this affects. So I just wanted clarification if we're just delaying it a month, to see what's happening, or if it's dead in the water. Thank you.
Tom Lemker again from Schuylkill Township. On item number 2 in the cursive, as I understand what you're voting on is that the administration will work with the faculty to consider implementation of cursive handwriting, which means we're not really going to say we're going to take cursive. We're going to look into it. So I'll make sure the board's on board that that's all you're voting for. Is that first? And secondly, I'm just curious how long you think this whole if it is approved, how long is the whole process going to last? I mean, is there a chance that next year's 3rd grade can have cursive? That's all. Thank you.
No further comment. Dr. Whitehead, do you want to speak to cursive, please?
Sure. We believe we've had preliminary conversations already with elementary faculty, and we believe that in the time frame that we have remaining this year, that we would be able to implement cursive handwriting in a grade level, whichever grade level they wind up recommending for next year.
And then just to piggyback off that, what will happen next steps is once a formal proposal comes to bear, it will come to the curriculum committee for consideration and then move back out to the full board depending on how the curriculum committee votes. Okay, and then Dr. Fagley, did you want to speak to the field trips?
They're not going. They're not going. No.
This time we'll move on to the Finance and Personnel Committee report.
Finance, first item for approval is our personnel report, which is just your resignations, appointments, leave requests. Then I'm going to go through what's voting first, and then I'll talk about the things that we discussed, because we did talk about some good topics here. We also have our business office report, which is just our standard approval of disbursements of school funds, and our financial reports for January and February for the second part. For our business office items, we had a discussion on assessments. That was a discussion item, but it's also, we have an item here regarding the approval of a settlement of a tax assessment appeal for the property at 552 Kimberton Road. That is the shopping center where the old Wine and Spirits was out in Kimberton, and where the chicken place, Spotty's Chicken, something, yeah, is there. And because of the loss of the Wine and Spirits store, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, the person filed an appeal for the taxes for that property because the value went down, and we did come out with an approval deal there for that property. It was originally, I think it looks like it was a $4 million value, and they were claiming it was $3.3 million, and I think the end result was $3.6 million is the price that it came out to for that assessment of that property. Next item for approval is the audit. I'm sorry, it's not approval. We did have a correction there. It is now an acknowledgement receipt of the 2018-2019 audit, and that's coming up for the business office items. The fifth item we have here is the approval of the charter renewal for Renaissance Academy. They're looking for a 5-year renewal of for the school. I'm going to read real quick the recommendations that the district has for this property. It's a 5-year renewal and recommending starting on July 1st, 2020 and ending on June 30th, 2025. That doesn't mean it'll permanently end. It just means it'll come up for renewal again. Just want to clarify that. I don't want anyone to think that. For the items that the district is recommending, there was some concerns about their ELL, English language learners that attend the school. They're underrepresented is the concern. Their demographics is that they have 0.05% English language learners, and considering that the majority of the kids that do go to that school are from Norristown, where we have 39% ASD. What's ASD? It says Norristown ASD 39%. Thompson. Area School District. Sorry. That's true. Norristown Area School District. Has 39% of their students are from the Norristown Area School District, and 29% of their students are from Phoenixville. And for Phoenixville, we're a pretty diverse community, so it's really surprising to see that 0.05% of their students are English language learners. So that's something that was brought up, is to increase enrollment of their English language learner population to match the top 3 residency districts in that attend that school. There was also concern about the special ed. So one of the recommendations here is to increase its spending on special education to more closely reflect the total special education dollars the school is receiving for special education services. I'm going to look real quick to see if I don't know if I have the numbers, but my belief is they receive $5 million in special ed funding, and they're not spending that entire amount on special ed.
They receive, if you may.
Go ahead, sorry.
Somewhere near about $5.6 million from all school districts for special education services. They spend approximately $1.6 million on special education services. So in essence, they are receiving 2.5 to 3 times the amount of money for educating special education students than they are spending. So the recommendation coming from us to the board is that they spend what they receive.
Yeah, seems fair. Submit a yearly report to the Phoenixville Board of School Directors outlining special education enrollment, spending, and practices. That's one of the things that is a recommendation. And lastly is encourage and provide support for all Renaissance Academy faculty to achieve a level 2 certification. So those are the things that the district kind of bullet pointed and asked for recommendations.
Mr. Soto?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
At the committee meeting, I had asked for another item to be added to that. It was in the report, and it dealt with meeting the career benchmark standards. I do not see it on there. It would also have to be reflected on the previous slide of this presentation, where it talks about academic success. It would have to be something there saying career benchmark standard, and says, see concerned noted, see some concerns, noted, as all the other ones do there. So I respectfully ask that this be amended before we vote on it. That was the thing. That if we had other comments on the other items that you summarized, okay. On the personnel report, one of the items in there is the reimbursement for conferences or scheduled conferences. There are some that are scheduled in this period that we are shut down. I'm assuming we're not going to those, we're not paying those, and we will, if we had, we'll get reimbursed or whatever. There won't be any loss.
That is correct.
Okay, that's fine. And I think I'll hold off on anything else till a little later on. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and if anyone wants to stop me, because I'm just running through on things that we've discussed and have questions, we can certainly do that. Okay, I'm just trying to go through the approval items. I need to find that again. Hold on. Where are we?
Oh, I know what it was. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In February, we deferred some items under the business office report, like December 2019, January 2020. I'm assuming somehow that got
It did pass in the last board meeting.
Excellent.
We had a spirited discussion over it, but in the end, it did pass.
Okay, my mistake.
The only
Thank you.
thing that was pulled, I believe, was the January 2020, and that's on this one, the
That's only
acknowledgement
because you had
receipt.
6 months to
No.
the thing, and I lost track. My
That's
apologies.
okay. I think that was everything basically with Renaissance. I mean, I encourage board members to read the report. It's very long. Well, the first part, no, it's not that long, but sorry. But it's something I think everyone should look at and read during their time. But those were the recommendations that the district recommended for Renaissance. The last time our people, go ahead. Did I hear a voice? Sorry, go ahead.
Just on that topic, I just wanted question. When you say recommendations, is there any teeth to that? Anything enforceable?
Yes and no. I mean, they are going to receive their approval. We are going to be sitting there following through and making sure that they try to do that. That said, the next time that you will have as a board to vote on it will be in 5 years, when they'll come back and they'll either have done it or not. Now, I will give Renaissance Academy some credit. There were recommendations the last time, 5 years ago, and they did meet all those recommendations. And they did so relatively quickly. So my assumption would be, seeing past history, that they will do it again. But with this approval, they then move forward and are approved for a 5-year period.
So there's no way during that time period that we can make sure that the special ed spending is going to the students that actually need it.
Actually, we do ask for a yearly report in our recommendations that they do have to provide.
Okay. And if we get back numbers that don't line up with the recommendation, anything, any kind of recourse?
It would be that we have announced it as a board, that we have announced it. Given that Pennsylvania, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, that they currently have cyber charter schools that are able to operate at about $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per year and make a profit, and we still have to send them $13,000 per student. And that there's a cyber charter out there that at one point tried to return money to the district, but was then told they could not return by the state, could not return money to the district because they were being overpaid. No, I don't know that we as a board, you as a board, have any recourse if they don't spend all the funds. I think it's important, however, that we call out the issue, let folks know that unlike Phoenixville, where we receive somewhere in the area of $4,000 to educate children who are special education, and we spend somewhere in the area of $33,000 for those students, that they, on the other hand, receive about $5.6 million to educate special education students and only spend $1.7 million. I wish we had such luck and were able to get, that would actually equate to us receiving about $100,000 per student that is special education.
And is some of that money federal? Those are federal funds under the IDEA?
There's some small ones, about 16%.
Okay.
They're supposed to be funding us at a 40% level, but they fund us at a 16%.
Approximately. I'm
16.
talking about for the charter school as well.
That it's our money that goes over.
It's our money that goes there. Okay, thank you.
And the charter school students in those counts are included in our count on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Broker, I would just briefly add too, with regards to the teacher certification, professional responsibility growth recommendation, under the current charter school law, only 75% of charter school teachers are required actually to be certified of their total staff. And that movement to level 2 certification, while we're required 100% in both categories, it's optional for charter school teachers.
Just one more question. Do we have any idea whether or not the tuition vouchers that are going to charter schools such as this one are being counted, that they're not being double paid as far as we're paying tuition and possibly that's also coming out of the appropriation that goes to funding those tax credits?
I think I understand your question. I don't believe charter schools are able to get those tax credits in that way. I could be wrong. Those tax credits, from what I understand, are set up to go to private schools. Charter schools are considered to be public schools.
For People Services Agreement, the first item is an approval of a physician service agreement with PMA Medical Specialists. And this is for the course of July 1st, 2019 to July 30th, 2020. It's just something that's standard, and it's for our physicals and like scoliosis checks and things like that they do for students that may not have had their annuals done, and that comes at no cost to the students. Number 7 is for a placement program for a special education student. If you have questions, we'd have to go to the executive session for that. And that's for the approval items. I did have a question, though. The treasurer's report, I noticed isn't on here. And Dr. Serini, did you want to have... Oh, it's separated. Oh, okay. All right, never mind. Thank you. All right, I'm glad that's on there. Okay. And real quick, I'll just go over some of the discussion items that aren't for approval, but just some things that maybe the public might want to know what we spoke about, and our fellow board members that may not have attended. The ones that I think, some of the things that we spoke about was Phoenixville Hospital update. An update is coming for that. There was some stuff that's executive session, so I won't. Request for proposals. We had a pretty spirited discussions on RFPs and what we are looking at and what should be coming in what order. And given the time frame with everything going on, we just more or less decided to just prioritize them. So the things that we're looking at to go out for RFP are our insurance service providers, our auditor, and our solicitors. So during our conversation, it was pretty much, discussed to go with the auditor first because it seems to be a high priority item. So that's something that will be happening in the coming weeks. They'll be going out for an RFP for an auditor, an annual auditor, I should specify. And we also spoke about we're still in negotiation with transportation and discussed healthcare reserves. Currently, we're under budget on our healthcare reserves on what our spending is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're under budget because a lot of times a lot of things come May and June, and we might end up having to spend there. So it's something just to keep an eye on for us. I think that's really it. I mean, we spoke about other things, but I think mainly there was Plan Con J. We spoke about that as well, the concerns on that, and that's being looked into and worked on. We talked about reassessments. There was an exception for use for school facilities for the Chester County POPs, and I think that's really it for finance. We did have, I didn't notice, it wasn't on the agenda, but we had someone come from the Phoenixville wrestling team. They were coming about custodial fees. So there was a discussion about that, and there's going to be a little bit more communication on that before whether or not it comes to the board for something for us to consider on whether or not to waive any of those fees. And I think that's basically it. Yep, and that concludes my report.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Sure. As far as the
one more thing, I did have one
go
more
ahead.
thing. Sorry, it wasn't on the agenda, but we did a staffing preview, and thank you very much, Mrs. Rockwood, for putting that together. A lot of people have had questions with the budget coming up on what vacancies we have, where we need to put staff, where we might need, whether we need another director of curriculum, or should we consider adding a controller into the finance department to help a better checks and balances, things like that. So Mrs. Rockwood did a great job in putting this together, and I encourage my board members to look at it. For those who may not have attended, so I'll just go real quick through it real fast. There was a organizational structure of what admin looks like, superintendent, community relationships, assistant superintendent, kind of like that. And there was also a business overview of the finance department on what it currently looks like, why we have part-time employees there, what, whether they're, how often are those part-time employees working there, and things like that. And they were just temporary employees to help kind of, get us up to speed on things in the business office. So that was a part of our conversation. And also we spoke about how much staff is in all the buildings, how many teachers we have, nurses, things like that. Class sizes was discussed, as well as AP class sizes. There was some concerns about that. Our vacancies that we have and what's coming up our pending vacancies. We went over chart of accounts and how there are changes being done to that to help, with, I guess, more clarity on that and making sure people are getting allocated where they need to get allocated. And I think that's basically it. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of questions. As far as the RFPs, my understanding is if we're going out for professional services, and given that our staff is spread incredibly thin, RFPs requiring staff time and money, is there any consideration of, instead of doing an RFP for professional services, that we have a sub team or some other way of taking the burden off of administration, and getting those things done without the expenditure, and also that way we can all we can talk to our neighboring districts and get recommendations and that sort of thing.
There was actually a very extensive discussion about that, and as I understood from the Finance Committee, they fell on, we want to put out an RFP so we have the most wide open process possible versus sitting there and just going out and asking one or two people to please apply. So we will do that. The recommendations, all the ones who will submit their RFPs, will be brought back to the board for you all to do your hard work by looking through those RFPs. But when you talk about transparency, the most transparent thing is to put out, ask for everyone to submit their best bid and move forward from that. So that's where the discussion very quickly summarized we understood it to be.
One other piece was that so we had the 3 RFPs. There was the audit, the insurance, and then council. annual audit, thank you, annual audit, insurance and council. And for the council one, we would likely, this is not predetermined, but the discussion was that there would be a subcommittee from the board. So that we would do the initial RFP that would be broad. The subcommittee of the board would then narrow it down to bring recommendations of 3 or 4 to the full board for consideration.
And is that RFP, do those RFPs, they go out throughout what Southeast, is there a geographic range? I'm just wondering.
They will go out through the usual channels, and yes, it would be this entire Southeast region that there would be, the advertisements would be out. It would actually be on our website as one of the pieces that you see as you go right to our website.
Okay, great. And the final question is, if we are displeased with our lowest quality bidder, what is our recourse?
As a professional service, you can take any of the bids. You do not have to take the lowest one for a professional service.
Do you have to take any of the bids?
No, you can go out for
RFP?
Yes.
Are you precluded from not doing an RFP at that point?
Not for everything, just for.
I'm talking about professional services.
Yeah.
No, you actually could go out, and I would not recommend this, and sit there and say, we want to hire you as the annual audit firm, and they could come in and that would be the annual audit firm, whatever price they give. You can do that for a professional service. I would never recommend that to this board, though.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that you would do it like that, but I'm just suggesting that certainly there's a great deal of amount of negotiation power. So it's not that you have to accept any particular price that they offer.
We're all aware of that.
Yeah,
Okay,
not disagreeing.
Just want to make sure that that's not given up. Okay, thanks.
Any further board comment question?
Just wanted to clarify on the temps for the business office. Some of that was to help with the fact, I believe, and you can be corrected, that there was some resignations, individuals that left the office, and during the fall time frame, and this helped with some of that work that hadn't been backfilled at that point in time. And
from my understanding, the temps, I had written it down here, hold on, real quick. They were mostly working nights and weekends, helping, with the audit and helping, with what you had to coverage. And they're not being used as much as they were before. So essentially the 3 part-times don't necessarily equal a full-time employee, from my understanding. And I can be corrected if I'm wrong. So, it was just to help alleviate some of the burden from everything that was going on with, the research and everything that we were doing with our audits.
yeah, I just didn't want a misinterpretation on the quality of the business office, that's all.
Thank you for that.
All right, seeing no further comment question, at this time we'll open for public comment on the business and personnel report.
Lisa Longo, Phoenixville. With regard to the change, again, I want to thank the board for tabling the approval of the audit, but I would like to ask that you're tabling the approval, you're just accepting the report. So, yep, it's being taken off the agenda for approval, and I appreciate that. What I would ask is that a board member make a motion to restrict the use of these reports until they are approved. They should not be provided to any bonding agent or agency. They should not be used in any way until they are fully vetted. And I have numerous concerns, including something that was just reported by the Finance Committee Chair. If we had to hire staff to come in and work nights and weekends to make up for work, then there were problems in that office that should have been caught in prior audits. Yeah, there were. It's not what you said. No, what you said was staff had to work nights and weekends.
No, I should clarify. Okay.
So, right. So that's just one concern. And I want to go back and reiterate something in the education session that Mr. Fazio said, is that he is not an auditor. And I really appreciate that because I was an auditor and I was a forensic auditor. So I understand how both processes work. And again, there were 5 points that are missing from this audit that really need to be delved into. And I think that the board, you may need to do a special hearing on this. This is not something we should take time up when we're all want to get home and out of an atmosphere that's been deemed unsafe by our state government, right? But I just want to quickly say that the 5 points, I think when we talk about the field revenue, there is a memo that I wrote that I tried to get the last board to pass before the new board came on, because it is not fair to put a burden on these new board members who didn't have the history or the context that we had. And there were recommendations in that memo that were very specific about what should happen with the field revenue. And I would ask that at the next Finance Committee meeting that memo be part of the agenda and that we look at it for approval. As we're dealing with this pandemic, I think we also need to talk about property taxes. There are going to be businesses and families that are going to lose their jobs, that are not going to be getting a paycheck. And we had a proposal to have a community tax abatement program that would allow people to come in and do volunteer work. And again, that was also put off. So I think, we have a responsibility to our community to care for the community. So again, I'm going to ask that there be a special hearing on this audit report, and I hope that a board member will make a motion to restrict the use of this audit report and that it not be used for anything until it is fully vetted and until the forensic audit is also received and vetted.
John Moranis, Schuylkill Township again. As I said the other day at the finance meeting, your reassessment and the numbers that you put down here on the agenda, why not just give us, the taxpayers, what money you are losing due to this reassessment? The value is fine, the millage is there, but for us taxpayers, we'd like to know just the bottom line number. And I brought that up at the other meeting. So I think that would be more transparent just to say, based upon this reassessment, the school lost $5,000, $8,000, whatever that number is. That is a better number than just saying these millage rates and reassessment. In addition to the audit, if you could read page 13 of the audit, financial management. Our financial report is designed to provide our citizens, taxpayers, parents, students, investors, and creditors with a general overview of the district's finances and to show the board's accountability for the money it receives. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Schaefer. I'm the business manager of Renaissance Academy Charter School. And I just wanted to say thank you for the review and for allowing, the charter to be renewed another 5 years, as you vote. One thing I do want to state is the amount of money that we're paying for special ed services. I believe part of the difference is the way it's presented. I put only the things that I put in special ed are the additional costs, the outside services, the special ed teachers. So we receive $5 million for educating those special ed students, but I only put into special ed costs the additional amount. I don't put anything in there for their regular school teacher, their curriculum, and everything else. So we receive $5 million. Out of that, for a regular student would have been $2 million something. So there's $3 million in addition that we receive for those special ed students. We don't receive, for those 180 or whatever students that we have, we receive only $3 million for extra money for special education. And I looked in from my audited financial statement and that there was $2 million, a little more than $2 million that I have on there. I will surely be sure that we get you the reports every year and look at that. We will look at our special education costs. But I wanted to let you know that part of that, I think, is just the way that we present our financial statements, that it wasn't that we got $5 million and only spent $1 million on those students. Okay, thank you.
Hey, how are you? Chris Bowen, Phoenixville again. I just wanted to reiterate what Ms. Longo said. I think the transparency on this issue of the audit and the forensic audit have been reprehensible, aberrant. And I too agree that there should be a special hearing held for this audit. We need to talk about what happened back in October, because a lot of people have questions about that. And if we're going to try and sweep it under the rug, then I'll tell you what, I'll just go to the state level and see what they have to say about it, because this is ridiculous. The fact that, we were told about this Audit 101 meeting third hand wasn't even listed, and we're trying to sweep the rest of this audit under the rug by calling an emergency meeting. I mean, I had $900 taken out of my paycheck last year. It was garnished from my paycheck by Keystone with no due process of law, nothing, no notification. The fact that you think you can slide this under the rug like this, I'm sorry, I can't even speak right now. Thank you.
Seeing no further comment on the finance, we will move to policy, but what... Oh, I apologize, Ms. Soto.
I just wanted to clear real quick what Ms. Longo said. I did not mean to say that we had people here staying nights and weekends. That's not what I was trying to say, and I don't think that's what came across. So I'm sorry if someone interpreted it that way. It was basically based on the availability of the part-time workers and when they could come in and help out. So I just want to clarify that. No one's staying late hours, nights and weekends, and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to policy, but what we are going to do when it comes to voting is we are going to defer this item to next month. Because we rolled workshop and voting in together, we will not have 2 readings of the policies as is necessary by law. So Mr. Goldberg, greatly appreciate doing the report, but we are not going to vote on it this month. We will just defer the voting to, I should say, the next time we meet, because who knows when that'll be.
Do you prefer I go through it next time so it's fresher?
You got to do the first reading. So yes, if
Okay.
you would please go through it, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, right. Regarding, we'll start with 626, which I believe is a PNN. Is that correct, Dr. Fagley? This is regarding travel reimbursement. So I don't think any substantive changes were made, just technical changes on reimbursement for travel programs, et cetera. The second one is regarding, excuse me, let me get to it. Is regarding public participation in board meetings. That was more of a reinforcement that we like it and we welcome it, and just we just changed a little bit of terminology as we did have with, as we've had with other policies to reflect the terminology used across the board, and we reiterated that there would be at least one period for public participation in every meeting. And that was not next one was the regarding the citizen advisory committees. That one was almost exclusive. Well, actually, that was exclusively terminology as well. Again, adding the purpose of the policy language and changing, if I remember correctly, terminology, or adding actual citizen advisory. And we took out to the board just to make it cleaner and sound better.
I think we also added a sentence on that one saying that, because it was a sentence there that said that it was available to the president and superintendent, and we had a sentence saying that upon request it would be made available to any board member.
The minutes will be made available to any board
Yeah,
member upon request.
you
It's
mean
added.
the very last
The very
sentence?
last, we added the very last sentence.
Yeah, I guess, sure, we did that as well. I'm not going to go through every technical
No.
change, but thank you, Mr. Weiss, for pointing that out. Next would be the, excuse me for a second, Roy. Next would be the news media relations. That was also essentially reaffirmment of what we had before. Again, to add to change around the technical language, which we're going to be doing this a lot, as you guys all know. Purpose of the policy language. Other than that, there was really no substantive change, or there was no substantive change whatsoever. And lastly, we relations with 913 relations with other groups or special interest groups, I should say. That was almost actually I think it was exclusively excuse me, it was almost exclusively adding language at the beginning of it under the purpose section, and we did change some language regarding authority and delegation of responsibility, approval or disapproval, things like that. That's it.
Board questions, comments on policy? Seeing none, at this time we'll open for public comment on policy.
I'm sorry, I did have one question. Mr. Goldberg, I know that you mentioned the policy about having public comment during a committee meeting. My concern is that...
I'm sorry, what are you asking about?
The policy about public comment during... Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah. So you don't have a question for me then?
I do not have a question.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, we will move on to board representative reports. If folks want to defer them to another month, since these tend to be non-emergency or... Yeah, absolutely. Yep. At this time, Phoenixville Public Library, Mr. Caltadron.
I just want to put this out there for parents who may be watching. Although the library is closed, there are a wealth of online resources that the library has available to you for your students. Please take advantage of those. They also have an Ask a Librarian portion on the website that you can ask questions to a librarian who can respond to you electronically. Please take advantage of those resources over the next few weeks. They're there, for that purpose, and they will become extremely helpful now. And even for adults, there are ebooks and stuff like that you can take out on loan through the library. So something for everyone at the library. Take advantage of it. It's there for your use. Thank you.
Mr. Manuel, I'd like to make a comment on my area. Okay.
Let me I can run through real quick. So
okay.
I'm going to defer my report. Next would be PCEF.
Right. Just real quick, I just wanted to thank the community for the Phantom fundraiser where they raised over $114,000, of which we get a large portion of that. So I want to thank the PCEF for that. And I also want to echo my thanks to them for working with the administration and the board during this time with volunteers and possible funding of areas where we may need it. And also thank them for the dual credit offer. So I just think that that's worth recognizing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Reed, would you like to do the Valley Forge Aquatic Center?
So I will defer, except please so I'm not deferring. Please follow, and share Valley Forge Aquatic Center on Facebook. Valley Forge Aquatic Center. And I will defer the remaining and the World Language Task Force to Dr. Figley.
Thank you. And so now we have the superintendent's report with Dr. Figley.
Thank you very much. I'll defer a couple things, but I want to truly, though, begin with a huge thank you to all the folks in the community, all the folks in the district for all their hard work over the last 2-3 weeks. The administrative team has been pretty much going nights and weekends for the last several weeks on working on getting everything in place and prepared. As of tomorrow, we're pleased to be able to say that we will be serving lunch for students in need. That will be for 0 to 18, and there is no need to sit there and be free or reduced. Our centers will be at Barkley Elementary School, at Ann's Heart, at Bethel Baptist, and at PAX right now. We look at expanding those out as we keep growing, but we need to start somewhere, and we'll have food there on Monday. Starting Tuesday, we will also have breakfast and lunch. They will be served at the exact same time, i.e. as a grab and go. All these will be grab and goes, and that will be approximately 10:30 to 12 o'clock. Although we will put out an announcement to everyone in the district later tonight as to the exact times. We're still working through a couple of those little details to make sure we have everything in place. I'd like to thank the community for stepping forward. Last I heard, we have over 90 volunteers who are willing Over 100, just update. It's been my life this last 2-3 weeks. Everything, time I announce one thing, something else comes in as the latest news. And this is good news. We have over 100 folks that have already volunteered their services to help us distribute the food out to the various locations, put the food packs together, and get this rocking and rolling. In that light, I do have a couple of motions I'd like the board to consider. If the board would please consider approving $10,000 to help feed the students of the Phoenixville Area School District, I'd be most appreciative. In addition, if the board would please consider approving $10,000 to provide Wi-Fi services for the students of the Phoenixville Area School District, I'd be most appreciative. We have a number of Kajits that we are handing out. Kajits are little Wi-Fi systems. We're not so certain that we have enough yet, even though we've ordered 40 more, so we would just like to have some additional dollars to take care of that. So at the conclusion, if you would please consider that. Over the next few weeks, we right now are shut down through the 30th. We are scheduled to open on the 30th. I am not a predictor, so don't go running out. I don't believe we will be open on the 1st or the 30th. I am hopeful that we will, though. We are going to be moving to online learning. That will be starting Wednesday afternoon. We're giving Monday and Tuesday for our teachers to finish their preparations, because while we've been doing preparations, they've been in the classroom teaching and getting everything ready. So they are now getting into their preparation mode. Wednesday afternoon, we'll start with kind of first day of school again. Here we go, and getting everything up and rocking and rolling. We will be distributing the computers, and people who have already put in for a computer are to stop. Will hear exactly the time they're to come by the high school to pick up the computer. If for some reason they are not able to do, I have a feeling we have enough volunteers that may be able to move some computers after we sign them out appropriately and do all the paperwork. We do have to do some paperwork to hand out the computers. So those will be taking place. The overall goal over the next 2 weeks and beyond, if it goes beyond, is to keep all working and all paid. That is the goal of the district, to keep all working and all paid. We are asking, and everyone is already stepping up in an amazing way to think out of the box. And when I say think out of the box, be willing to jump in and help out over on this side of the table when we're on that side of the table. And then we have 5, 10-sided tables. They're jumping all over the place, helping out, trying to make sure everything is working as well as it can. To the students, we look forward to seeing you soon. Some of you do have items in the schools that you would like to get. Please know we will set up a time for that to take place, but that will not be this week. We are waiting for this week. However, if you are a student that has medicine in the school that you do need, we will be having your parent come in probably on Tuesday, and we'll put out time so you can come in and pick up the medicine. For parents, just so you know, on this particular case, we're not going to have you come into the school. We'll have a phone system that you're able to call out, and we'll bring out the medicine to you. Again, it's trying to keep the social distancing, making sure everything is absolutely safe, although there will have to be a sign-off for the medication, because it is prescription medication that we'll be handing back out. Again, more will be coming out either late tonight or tomorrow with regards to what we're doing and taking place. But that is a quick 2-minute update of the last 48 hours or so.
I have a question on that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some comments from parents asking about spring break. Does that mean spring break is canceled, or are they're losing their days? I mean, I know it's too early to tell.
That's a wonderful question.
But that was just a question.
Where we stand administratively as a district is that we believe we can instruct and will be instructing the students starting on Wednesday. Okay? Now, there are a lot of hurdles we have to overcome. We have a lot that we have to do within the area of special education, and we're looking at all IEPs, and we're doing that work. There's different waivers we're going to have to ask for from the state. We're in the process of preparing that, and I've actually started to work with legislatures on what type of waivers that we need, along with Ms. Emanuel. We've been making those calls and getting those all set up. I can't go into the specifics right now, but because I actually don't know exactly what PDE is going to do. They have said that they will waive the 180-day requirement, but our concern is they may waive it but make everyone go to June 30th. Well, that's not a waiving of the days. I mean, from my perspective, we have a situation. It's an emergency situation. If we can do our very best to keep instruction going, and that will be the goal, to keep instruction going, my goal is that we graduate on June 10th. and my goal is that we still have spring break. So I'm not looking at, in our plans right now, we're saying don't take away the spring break. In our plans right now, we're saying we end on June 10th. Because quite frankly, it feels like a slap in the face to sit there and say, well, you can't come in now, but now you have to go in till this period of time later. So that's why I think you're seeing everyone in the district really stepping up and really doing an incredible job of pulling together the systems and making things work. Because we want to keep instruction rolling as best we can. It's not going to be perfect, but it's as best we can, and keep everyone moving forward. Yes, there are questions about the AP tests. Yes, there are questions about the PSSAs. There's questions about all that sort of stuff. I would ask you to please take a deep breath, because I don't even have those answers yet. Okay? And as soon as we get those answers, what they're going to do, how they're going to handle them, we will do that. SATs, I can tell you, we did postpone those yesterday. Initially, they were telling us the makeup day was going to be later this month. That's not happening. But we knew that's what the answer was that they were giving on Wednesday. We're waiting for them to give us a better answer, because we do have to make up the SATs and help those students move forward for their college and career plans. So the goal is we end June 10th. We will wait for PDE. I will be asking the board probably to support me significantly and calling out to the legislature and the community to call out to the legislature and sit here and say, no, if we're doing instruction as best we can, please know that. To special education parents, please know we need to look at each child's IEP. We need to determine what we can do online and what we are going to have to do as a compensatory piece. We understand that. And we understand that please understand we're looking at that deeply and thoughtfully, but every child is different. Every child is unique when they have a specialized education program.
And I'd like to piggyback off of that for the special education piece, that the administration is truly working very, very hard, because students who might have unique learning styles and unique learning needs, we can't cookie cutter fix this. So we are absolutely looking at all options possible in any way that we can ensure that our students get the education that they need.
And deserve.
I have a couple. Yes, Dr. Fagley, I know you said this, but as we roll it out, I want to make sure that it's crystal clear to some parents, to parents, because I've had some parents say to me that they weren't certain whether they were just going to be reviewing information the next 2 weeks or whether they were really going to be doing new learning. And I understand what you said, but as we roll this out to the website, as we roll this out to the community, make sure the best you can, the best Ms. Claus can. That's all I can ask. That's all I can ask.
Some people say, well, we know some students won't do certain things. Well, we know that in every case anyway, unfortunately. That said, we will keep working with everyone to make sure that they work to receive the best educational services they can.
That's all we can ask for. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions really quick. As far as the money situation, have you considered putting a donation button on our website for easy donation of supplies, money, whatever, what have you? It's just a quick, easy way to do it. That's number one. Number two, as far as the availability of food to our free and reduced and others, is there a means to get notice out to people who do not have access to computers, websites, electronics, and may not know about that? Just there may be some kind of public notice. The other question is about child care. I understand there's obviously going to be a huge need for that for those parents who still must work. And I'm just throwing out that as an issue of perhaps discussion of people volunteering their homes. I mean, obviously, it's up to everybody individually, but for those people who don't have the child care available, and I think that was. Oh, and I'm sorry, just to clarify, I had thought that I'd received an email that there were a number of students who just stayed home on Friday, just out of abundance of caution. And I thought I'd seen an email that they could come and pick up the books and folders and things like that on Tuesday or Monday. Is that no
So
longer?
with the ever-changing times,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, there will not be any students coming into the schools this week. We will start distributing books that for those who may need them next week. And this is in the abundance of caution of the way we need to move from our perspective right now. So I'm not saying there could have been something that went out. It is not happening.
It
right?
said parents, so but you're saying students or parents.
I am saying we are not distributing books this week, period. Okay. With regards to a donation button, please go to PCF. They have a donation button right there on their website. Click it and please donate if you would wish to. It's the actual title of the Together We Can Fund. Right on the front page, Together We Can Fund. Those monies will be used to help offset food costs. With regard to donate button,
Supplies as well, paper,
Sure.
pens, pencils.
well, I would respectfully say trying for us to get out supplies is going to could be a great challenge. Please donate funds right now. It's not a paper supply that we have a challenge with. It's much more some cash in those areas. The food, I missed your question. No. And childcare, I encourage parents to start working together. No school is allowed to open its doors to childcare. That will not be granted because it goes against the directive of the governor and actually of the local officials right now, Commissioner Moskowitz, that we are not allowed to sit here and bring students in large gatherings.
Thank you.
To the donation button, maybe we should put something on our site to go to their site if donation.
We do have a PCF
Perfect.
piece there, yeah. So if there's nothing else, Madam President, I would respectfully ask for those two motions.
So on that note, I will make the first motion that the board approve up to $10,000 for food assistance for our students. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
Is that enough?
If it's not, we will come back.
Okay, thank you.
Where's it coming from?
Yeah, that's.
I will have to figure that out. I'm being very serious. I'm just asking for the right to spend that money right now. That because we believe we need it. We will have to figure out where it's coming from, and we will let the board know. I'm not trying to evade. I just don't know right now off the top
Is
of my
that the
head.
same food?
I don't think you're evading, but I don't, not to sound callous or like a monster, because I don't want to feed kids, but I would like to know where this is coming from before I approve it.
There
We'll
was
bring it from the general
over
fund.
$200,000 in there. Was that correct? We have over $200,000 that we were
I'm
going
sorry,
to
where?
move.
And where?
That we had left over. Like, I don't want to say we had a profit, but after we paid everything, we still had $200,000 or $240,000. Did that go to the reserves already? Okay.
The decision as to where that $200,000 is going has not been made. So if you wish to sit there and take it out of that $200,000, that is fine.
I would be happy with that now, and then if we need to reallocate.
I would just say, we're canceling a lot of conferences and stuff like that and all that. So there's a lot of money that won't be spent over the next couple weeks. I mean, we're in a crisis situation here, and we're in uncharted territory. So if, we're talking about $20,000 that we know we can shift from some general fund account that we can put towards something that is going to be greatly needed in this community over the next 2 weeks.
And for the
It's
board,
least we
I
do.
can come back in sometime next week and tell you what fund it's been pulled from, but honestly, we have not looked at that yet.
I would ask that then. When it's been determined, we can get a quick email saying this is where it was pulled from.
Okay, and in the same vein, again, I have to ask this just out of fiduciary duty, and I know that it makes sense that we know the answer to it, but are we just assuming that there's a great need, or is there one that's actually been documented that we've seen?
We have 1,100 students on our free and reduced lunch program. We are starting out with a number smaller than that, and we will keep increasing the lunches as we see how many are coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
That's grab and go. Are there going to be like carts? I don't know, like people driving around to the lesser.
I will try. We will get out the more details to the board. I'd
Okay.
rather not start
Okay.
going through the operations and how they're going to take place.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, Michelle. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. And that brings us to our second motion, which is up to $10,000 for additional supplies needed. I will call it for access to technology, whether it's Wi-Fi, laptop devices, etc., but up to $10,000 for additional technology needs so that students can access their education during our break. Is there a second? Okay, discussion?
My question on that is, if we get the $10,000, do we know what, I saw your email that we already have 500 laptops. Is that correct, Dr. Fegley?
Yes.
And the next question is in the same vein as the question I asked regarding the food earlier. You're assuming that there's going to be a need for this $10,000. Now, this is a little less urgent, and I'm not saying it's not important, but it's a little less urgent. Are you assuming that there's going to be a need for this $10,000?
I am not assuming. I'm believing it may be necessary. We already have 200 requests for laptops that have come into us.
Okay.
That we're distributing. We're still trying to determine the number that need Wi-Fi to go with that. We are looking at, Comcast has recently come out and said that they will install for free for 60 days Wi-Fi or some level of service. Our challenge is we don't know when that will be. I mean, if all of a sudden they have to install service everywhere, I don't know how that will roll out. And the Wi-Fi extra kits that we're purchasing are on a month-to-month basis. So it's not something that we'll be getting for a long period of time. We're leasing them for the short period of time that we may need them.
So if we approve this $10,000, is that to say it's automatically going to be spent, or it's going to be sit there?
No, it's not.
So, and that's just to clarify. That's why I intentionally have framed both motions to be up to $10,000. So it's based on need, then the money's pulled. It's not that the money's pulled and then it sits there, maybe used, maybe not used. It's as it is needed, the money is pulled.
I'm worried about a situation where we approve $10,000, go out and spend spend $5,000 worth of laptops, and it turns out they're never needed.
We will not do that until we hit the point.
Which point?
When we need them.
We have 500
I have
in-house.
500. So
if
I have to go
501
beyond that.
comes out,
No,
we're getting a laptop.
I understand all that, but and that's the essence of what I'm asking.
Yeah.
You're not going to go out and actually spend this money until the trip.
I am trying to be transparent and let you know that we are going to, I believe, need the money. We will not spend it until needed.
So basically, we're talking about appropriation we may never need. Hopefully.
Correct.
Okay.
Just one more comment on that. As far as supplies, in terms of technological supplies, not my area of expertise, but I'm wondering if there's a possibility that we could go to some of our providers and ask for donations of equipment that's needed. And I know that we have a tremendous amount of resources in the community, people working at various places as well, that are in IT and tech. If it's unused, packaged, sealed, that kind of thing. Is that something that we can entertain as a possibility also in terms of?
If there's a group out there that have laptops lying around that are unused and totally safe, if they would send the system specifications of those to us, we will look them over. We just can't accept it. Just saying we can take any laptop would be false. We can't just take any laptop. So if there's people out there that have something they would like to donate for us to use, they need to send us the system specifications, and then we can consider that. That would also be something we consider after we go through the first 500.
Okay, and there's no information that you can put out as far as the parameters that that you're looking for?
Yes, we could put out those parameters, but frankly, right now, I have other things I need to do.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be mean.
No.
Very
I'm just
honestly,
trying to help.
I don't know who's out there ready to give a laptop when we've just told people you're going to start educating at home. I have more people coming in saying, I have 3 children, I only have 1 laptop, what do I do? We're trying to deal with those situations right now.
No, I know. I'm just, there are people in
Yeah.
Schuylkill who are like, we're willing. Okay, thanks.
I have a comment and a question. I understand that Comcast is going to be providing free Wi-Fi hotspots in certain public areas, so that might be helpful. And I know there's probably more information. There's also some possibility of them having free in-home Wi-Fi. That's just a comment. Conversely, a question, knowing that we're shifting to online for some unknown amount of time, would any of these funds be allocated towards having resources for teachers who are converting to online, who may need assistance or may still be part of that learning curve that occurs when you do learn how to teach online, or would that come from another aspect of the budget? Thank you.
That would be part of our curriculum and professional development. As Mr. Calciatron so appropriately pointed out, we've just canceled a number of conferences, so we have other monies that we can now shift over to this area for professional development in those ways.
That's great in terms of a budget. I guess then also just in terms of pedagogical needs of our faculty, and then maintaining a robust virtual learning environment for our students, could we perhaps consider maybe proactively including that to our list of technology needs, having maybe an instructional designer consultant available now that a lot of campuses, college communities are closed? There are many, many people who are very, very talented who may be able to lend, especially in a virtual capacity, some type of, similar to our coaching program that we have for our in-person teachers. Perhaps there's some type of instructional design resource that we could add, because it's an art and a science to convert from in-person to online, and it just might be something that, again, to benefit our students, it just something that, with everything that's going on and everybody's working so diligently to triage, just something to consider. Thank you.
And I understand we got a very large security grant. This falls under security. I don't know if we can tap into any of that money.
We cannot tap into that money. That money has been designated for other purposes.
Okay.
Okay, at this time, we will move on to the board secretary report.
I don't think we voted.
I was just going along. Apologies. At this time, we will vote on the motion to approve up to $10,000 for technology resources for our students at this time. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
That concludes my report.
Okay. And at this time, we will open to public comment on the board representative and superintendent reports.
Quick question on the superintendent's report. We did not see the enrollment report. And reflecting back on the audit, there's actually a number given in the audit that parts of this are based upon a 600 student increase. I have not seen an enrollment report that actually had that number on it. So I would ask again, when we vet the audit, those are the kinds of numbers that we vet.
Nope.
Hi, Kristen Myers, East Pikeland Township. Since we were talking about going to cyber learning, and I'm sure everyone is well aware of everything that is being offered, but at the home and school meeting for middle school, we talked about the Zoom, which is a video conferencing to tape and everything. That is now being offered for free for school districts. So I'm sure you are well aware, but
Yes, we're aware.
just wanted to bring it up in case it slipped through the cracks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comment, now we will go to the board secretary report. Ms. Broker.
Yes, I I have been going over the minutes. I actually have a number of changes, not changes, but additions. There are certain things that were left out. And there are also, I think, a written submission that was not in there. So I had this in my thing for March 23rd. So I would ask for forbearance to make those corrections and submit.
Would you like to make a motion to defer the vote?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to defer the vote.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And at this time, open public comment on board secretary report.
John Mraz. After knowing that the agenda was posted online for this meeting, I went back and looked at the February 10th board workshop meeting and found to my dismay that my comments were missing. And I double checked. I was on video, but all of my information, what I discussed, was missing. In addition, I did not see the handout or the hand-in I did for that meeting. So hopefully, the public comment is very important, I believe, from all of us here. And I'm not sure if I have to go back and check every one of these in the future. I don't know how this, I'm not going to say occurred, but what's the double checking of any of this so that the people who do speak in public are included in the minutes, and anything that we do hand in is attached to the minutes. So hopefully what I spoke about today is included in the next meeting's minutes. So again, there's got to be a way to make sure comments are included in future minutes. Thank you.
Seeing no further comment, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Thank you. My report will focus solely on 4-437 audit of accounts. I usually speak to all the different aspects of the PA code that the treasurer is responsible for. Essentially, I would like to just clarify a few things related to the audit so that we can understand the families and residents and taxpayers of our district have elected us to represent their best interests. And if in doing that due diligence and that work, it requires more than 3 minutes of discussion, I really would like to know exactly, what the ramifications are of that, because essentially,
as the reporter of the agenda, there was no limit placed on you, so you can go for as long as you want.
Thank you. Referring to when we have a motion and discussion and whatnot. But I'll get to my question, which my question is, has our solicitor provided us with a legal opinion that says that board members can have a limit when deliberating critical things such as an audit? Because, we've had many residents speak out, and as people who've been voted by our taxpayers and residents and the families here in the district, and for the benefit of the students. And as your treasurer, who you all voted me to serve as, I just want to clarify that our solicitor has given us a professional legal opinion on that this is something normal that we would do under such a sensitive vote. That's my first question before I get into my report. It's actually a point of order to understand what exactly we're doing here today.
It was, first I heard of it was a motion from the floor, and we're there, so we have not contacted legal.
Okay, so we then perhaps might want to consider rescinding that vote and getting our legal opinion as to whether or not
I would be happy to show you where in Robert's Rules of Order it says that I can put out a vote to limit speech, which has already been approved by the board. So if I would be happy to hear the treasurer's report instead of reviewing a vote that already took place. Thank you.
Actually, I would defer to the statute that supersedes Robert's rules, and in order to give my report, which actually under 4437 pertains to audit of accounts, it's a point of order and clarification for our taxpayers and families and constituents who have voted us in. So I'm just respectfully asking that we reconsider that motion until such time that we have an opportunity to receive a legal opinion from our solicitor.
That
that
motion
is
was also
appropriate.
made via policy, which is reviewed by council. All of our policies are reviewed by council.
Let me clarify. I'm making a motion to rescind the earlier vote that we defer that, okay, let me clarify. I am making a motion to rescind the earlier vote until we receive a legal opinion from our solicitor that it is appropriate to limit our board due diligence discussion time when it pertains to an audit and a vote to receive an audit. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
And I'm going to actually ask for a recess until Mrs. Broker's back in the room, because I just realized that one of my board peers
We have
is
an
not
open
here.
motion. Is there a second?
I can't.
Hearing none, this motion has failed.
Okay, thank you. That said, okay, so that said, my next point of order is, again, in the spirit of protecting our families and taxpayers and constituents who are here, who voted all of us into our respective positions and can actually vote us out, and because all of you have voted me as your treasurer, I will now talk about the forensic audit, since we have under
Depending on what you're saying, it might be an
4.437.
executive session.
No, it won't be. I will, before I get into my reporting out of treasurer for 4-437 audit of accounts, I have a motion that we will, excuse me. I'd like to make a motion that our business manager and administration immediately release a copy of the current iteration, the in-progress forensic audit for our review before we vote on receiving our annual audit, because I have not seen it since our executive session. And when I requested it, I was told that it would be released when it was
Stick
finished.
to the motion, please.
It is, okay, thank you. So my motion is that I would like the business manager, interim business manager, and administration to immediately furnish the in-progress copy of our forensic audit before we vote on receiving our annual audit, which, that's my vote.
Is there a second?
I would second that, but I need to know if that's legal. Because it's...
It is an in-progress investigation, and I am not a lawyer, and I will not speak. I don't know if that's legal.
That's
Well,
because
I'm not-
it's an in-progress investigation.
I'm not a very good lawyer, but
You say that each time.
Because it's true, but I would be suspect of being able, just like you said, an in-progress investigation. I don't think this can happen. But again, I'm not offering my legal opinion because this isn't my wheelhouse. But I would be curious. I would be surprised if that was possible.
So then I need clarification on whether or not you're seconding the motion.
I am not seconding the motion, no.
Is there a second for the motion?
Just before anybody decides.
Hearing no second motion,
Yeah.
there's no discussion. We have a motion and a second per Robert's rules, per policy. This motion has failed.
This is hysterical, actually. Okay, well, one more motion to make that in light of recent information that we received from a former board member, which was sent to all of us, I'd like to have a side-by-side comparison of what the prior board voted on in terms of what our forensic audit should comprise compared to what was actually contracted with our forensic auditing firm that is essentially has hired the solicitor to do the forensic audit. So my motion is to have I would like to have a side-by-side comparison of what the former board voted on compared to what was actually contracted between the solicitor, not the board, but the solicitor and the forensic accounting firm made public so that we may review it and make a decision as to whether or not the forensic audit is actually in line with what we need to be doing at this point in time.
Dr. Sweeney, I have to make sure, I want to make sure I understand what you're asking for. You're asking for something to be made public, or you're asking for a side-by-side comparison for us to see?
I'm asking for, because I don't believe it's covered under sunshine, but if it is covered under sunshine, so be it. Essentially, I want to just make sure that what the prior board voted on in terms of what the forensic auditing firm would do is exactly what the current forensic auditing firm, which was hired by the solicitor and is representing the solicitor, not the board, is my understanding.
But you want to review this, or you want to make it public?
I think we should make it public, unless if it's, no, it's not. It's actually not.
Let's wait. She finishes the motion, we'll get a second. Go from there. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. What I would like to clarify is that all those documents have been shared with the board, and they have also been made public. It was not presented in a side-by-side comparison as you are asking. However, the RFP and the initial request and the documents relating to the engagement of the forensic audit firm have been made public.
Can you just direct where they are? Because I don't believe that the current contract for the forensic auditor is public. I have not found it. So if you could please just post it. You haven't seen it either? Okay. I'm allowed to interact with the public. They're our constituents. They voted us in. They can vote us out. I'm giving a treasurer's report.
Point of order. Let's finish this conversation.
Thank you.
We will provide the information to you. Thank you.
Again, to clarify, I'm asking for it to be published
We understand.
publicly, not to me. I already have it.
I was
I
going
just
to
have
share the
not had
information that
time.
you requested. It is already public.
It is already public.
Great, thank you. Well, then if we could clarify to our constituents where they may find it. Thank you. In terms of the treasurer's report, because I have not had any support from my board peers to any of my motions, I don't have any further comments other than I will continue to work diligently to get questions to my answers. It's regrettable. I'm sorry. I'm trying to represent you and the families in the best manner possible. And I know that there's a lot right now with the coronavirus and the advantageous time to refinance our $1 million in bonds. But I will continue to work hard, and I hear you, and thank you.
Okay. Nope, that's not on. At this time, we're going to move on to the voting items. We will start with open public comment on any of the new business items.
Before we get to the voting items, I'm going to ask again that a board
This is
member.
new business only.
New business only. All of the voting items are new business at this point because that's how they're listed in the agenda. They're all new business. So I'm going to ask that somebody make a motion to restrict the use of these audited financial statements until they are reviewed. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through the 20 points that I have found that I have questions on in the audit. I will submit them in writing to the board members. But I will reiterate that there are certain numbers that are being quoted in the audit that have to be validated. I haven't seen those, as this was a year I was on the board. I would like to also say, in the education session, there was a request that we look at the budget versus the actual, and that's the variance reporting. That is part of the reports that you guys are going to be approving. There was always a variance report in there. So when we get back to the audit, again, one of the reasons I'm asking that these be restricted, there were 5 points that this audit failed to address that are serious. The first is the failure of the internal controls, and I would ask that that report be made public. It's not part of the audit. There was also a recommendation made to the administration 4 or 5 years ago that there be a restructuring of the internal controls. I asked that question, had those recommendations been implemented? I have yet to receive an answer. The second point was the possible misuse of taxpayer funds. The third was the diversion of taxpayer funds. The fourth was the overpayment of local taxes to the municipality. And the fifth is the ongoing forensic audit. None of these issues are dealt with in this audit. So if we can't table the entire thing, you're going to acknowledge the receipt. I ask that the board restrict the use so they cannot be sent to anyone, including the bond agent, to do this $100 million unprecedented refinancing. And I've been coming to these meetings for 10 years, and I have never seen such a thing, not once.
Seeing no further comments, we will move on to the voting on the curriculum committee report, items 1 and 2. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry.
For which?
For items 1 and 2 of the board curriculum.
Well, I'd like to split them up. I'm a nay for number 2.
Okay, you can register that at the conclusion.
Well, that's why I'm asking you which ones, yeah.
Correct. Nay?
On number 2.
Thank you. Abstentions? Both carry. Next, we have the board finance and personnel. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Apologies. Discussion? Discussions earlier. These are.
We had said that we were putting it all at the beginning of this because we're going straight through. Everyone's discussed this, but you can.
So you can make a motion.
Yeah,
for
make
a
the change.
Well,
Please.
that's why this is the time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to have the conference report reflect the cancellations due to coronavirus, so that it reflects the current fluid situation. Totally understand.
I also believe there's another motion you'd like to make.
Yes, there is. I would like to make,
Yeah.
I thought we were going to wait.
Second on that.
I'll second it.
So in favor of Mr. Weiss's motion. Sorry.
To update the conference report that's within the personnel report to reflect
Potential changes.
potential changes.
Yep. Thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Would you like to make your second motion now, or is that for, trying to remember which one his? It's all under finance.
A second. Yes, I'd like to make a motion that under the business items, the charter renewal, that there's an added recommendation to include meeting the career benchmark standards.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Thank you. I apologize for that.
Thank you.
So now with those two amendments, all those in favor of approving the business and personnel items, aye?
One through 7. Items 1 through 7. Business personnel.
Business personnel. All those in favor of approving items 1 through 7 in the business and personnel report with the two amended motions that Mr. Weiss had put forth?
I'll second.
Thank you. I apologize. Losing count here. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry. Ms. Shamos. Opposed? Abstentions? We pass. I do need to add at this point, and I apologize for not catching this sooner. We did, I neglected to get buildings and grounds voting items on this agenda. However, we do need to vote on those two items that Mr. Caltagirone mentioned initially, which are the approval to go out for the zoning variances and the approval to seek an RFP for the 2 properties. Do I have a motion for those 2 items? Second?
Second.
It's a new business item. It's a new business item. You're fine.
It's a new business item. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. I forgot to. Opposed? Abstentions?
Oh, Lori said nay? Okay.
Thank you. All right, motion carries. And while the board secretary report is on there, we did already previously vote to defer that motion. At this time, one final announcement before adjournment. As previously mentioned, Ms. Broker will no longer be chair of curriculum, and I will fill that vacancy. Thank you all for coming out, and I know that this is a challenging time for everybody, and again, want to reiterate my thank you to the community and our staff. We are adjourned.